The fashion industry has always faced a lot of scrutiny, from fast fashion to sustainability issues, and the COVID situation has only shined a light on its pre-existing problems. What could possibly be the solution to save this 26 billion industry? The Fashion HIGHWALK is a tower which condenses the whole fashion industry, from event hosting, retail, production and recycling, into a single tower, creating a hyper-localized circular economy in the City of London. Program-wise, the tower consists of museums, offices for sustainable fashion startups, retail, event spaces, recycling, co-working spaces, and a transportation hub. The program doesn't only benefit from each other to foster upcoming fashionistas, but also encourage interaction with surrounding office workers, tourists, etc., effectively challenging the current business model of the industry by bringing designers closer to the buyers. The tower is not just a cultural ghetto, but a social catalyst which knits into the city fabric. The tower is situated in the financial hub of London and is situated close to one of the fashion cluster in Bethnal Green. While the tower doesn't sit in the assessment zone of any viewing corridors, the height of my tower is limited to 160 meters to hide away from the backdrop of St. Paul's from Fleet Street. On a more local scale, my site is situated in two heavy traffic streets, with a bus stop in front of my site and also two interconnected stations nearby. My site is also adjacent to a shopping centre, with the types and size of the shops represented by the colour and size of the blobs respectively. After analysing the economic trends for the past 10 years, while the City of London is known for being a financial centre, the city is actually encouraging the integration of other industry, as financial services can be digitalised. My site is also on Fenchurch Street, where the Livery of Clothworks are freeholders of many of the lands. Based on all these analyses, I believe that my site is the perfect place to place the fashion hub in.
The concept of my design starts from the underground, where I decided to make use of the leftover southbound Northern Line after the bank extension to create a connection to both station and my tower, effectively moving the Monument Station to my site. The advantage of this is twofold. Firstly, the new tunnel redirects footfall from the almost full capacity bank station to my tower, given that both stations take 6 minutes to go to the Leadenhall building. Secondly, the tunnel will provide a step-free access to Monument Station. The tunnel then spirals up into my tower, creating a seamless transition between horizontal and vertical. The tunnel is occupied by event spaces, which a spiral will help create different clusters and sizes of event spaces. The event spaces are then subdivided into spaces from public museums to private atriums for private gatherings, and these are spread out from bottom to top respectively. These event spaces are all adjacent to retail spaces to maximize revenue, and then office spaces. I start off my massing by creating a series of shapes which are corresponding to the sunlight and wind of the site. However, while developing these shapes, honestly I find it really hard to find a sweet spot between the efficiency of office space required for financially deprived fashion designers and the grandness of an event space. So I decided to approach the design in a similar manner of the Manchester School of Art, the gallery and the shed.
For my case, the event space is treated as the gallery and the office space is treated as the shed. I decided to carry forward this massing for my event space as it complements the views of the surrounding landmarks, and this massing for the office space as it is the most space efficient. In order to create a meaningful connection between the two, I decided to look into the relationship between the two programs, which will also in turn help me decide on the type of structure. Both the aim of the catwalk shows and the production is to increase sales, which is retail, unlike event space which requires a column-free floor space, hence an exoskeleton will be a perfect solution for it, and office spaces which will need daylight and space efficiency between the two programs, which I believe a column grid structure within a rectilinear volume will work the best. And for retail, it needs wall spaces for displays and accessibility from both programs. Therefore, I decided to create an intermediate space by interfacing the two types of structure and placing two off-center core there, which will in turn create a space with tons of wall space and guarantee interaction between the two programs. Regarding the specificity of the interfacing, the office massing are 3 identical vertical villages stacked leaning away from the walkie-talkie. Each volume caters to specific ways of working of different sustainable fashion brands. The volume of the office blocks remains the same as there are more value in floor area the higher the tower is. In general, offices in the bottom resemble more of an artist studio, and the higher it goes, it shifts to a more conventional office space. And also, there are less public footfall on the top. The event space volume is a simple twist, which pinches at the specific heights of the surrounding landmarks. Those pinch points act as viewing galleries and major event spaces for catwalk shows. The reason for the pinch is A. For recognition of event space from the exterior, and B. To bring in the proximity to the field of action allowing more seatings to be placed on the side of the stage, and also encourage the main stage to be located on the glass flooring, which are the area with the most visual access across the building. The two structures are further weaved together at public accessible places. The strong difference in terms of structure can also in turn signify the type of program from the outside. Going into more detail, while the office volume are clearly differentiated between a type of fashion brand. So for example, the first volume focuses on brick and mortar retail and upcycling clothes like Rayburn. The second volume has a lot of emphasis on collaboration between brands and provide repairing services like Phoebe English. And the third volume, which have semi-autonomous production and heavily focuses on digital platform like Unmade. The floor plates on the corresponding event space side and atrium spaces are also designed to foster those brands, with the only similarities between them being the central void and the movement of people via the lift, where the office workers have direct access to the office spaces, but the public accessible lift only arrive at the viewing galleries and the dining areas. The purpose of this is to increase the duration of stay and spend of people attending events. The differences between each section are all made from different requirements in terms of view and quality of space. For the podium, it holds the underground tunnel, the museum and the recycling. Other than the concourse of the tunnel, south-facing skylights are also incorporated to bring light into the underground, but also act as wayfinding devices for the 300-meter-long tunnel. The skylights are all connected to the pedestrian walkways on the street level, which will also allow visual access into the tunnel. For the ground floor condition, the ground level is stepped back to provide more public space for the higher footfall streets, and also provide a shortcut to the walkie-talkie. The left houses the entrances for the museums and the underground, which are made out of large ramps to make the vertical circulation more inviting, while the right houses the lobby of the offices. The atrium space of the podium is carved out from the views of the passengers on the double-decker bus and the views from the people queuing to enter the Sky Garden. The slight misalignments in floor plates also help maximize the exposure in both views. The facade of the office blocks represent the process of knitting, from threading to twisting to knitting, and for the podium level, it is knitted state, as the museum doesn't need direct sunlight but diffuse ones. The recycling center houses the garment-to-garment recycling system, which is a scalable recycling system which is configured to operational compatibility to community spaces. So rather than a recycling center, I imagine a space to act more like a market for recycled garment. For the first volume, the floor plates for the event space in the first volume is a set of landscape floor plates, which spirals around the central atrium, and a secondary atrium which cuts diagonally from north to south. Each floor is connected to an office. The purpose of the secondary atrium is to bring light in, allow shopfront windows to be created on each floor for the retail-reliant brands, and also to maximize visual exposure of different programs. A partition wall system is also introduced within the offices to provide more flexible spaces to suit more flexible programs, like retail, within the mode of working of a fashion brand. For the second and third volume, it works in a very similar manner. The office volume are carved in to maximize exposure from the viewing galleries and the event spaces, and there is a co-working space on the second volume. The central atrium is slightly stretched out to allow exposure to the windows of the office spaces. The floor plates are also slightly landscaped to allow for visual access across the floors. An event space is carved out at 144 meters at my tower, where the event space connects to the Sky Garden height-wise, which allows people to look across. Louvers with LED screens are also installed on the openings of the exoskeleton to use as advertising boards across the city. Each window is targeted at certain landmarks across the city. At the moment, the louvers are 30 centimeters wide and 70 centimeters apart, as it is the balance between the clearness of the advertisement and the solar access into the floor plates from the distance of the viewing deck in Tate Modern. However, I believe I can work on the individual landmarks to specify the density of louvers on each window. I would like to wrap the presentation up by quoting from Victoria Camblin, the executive editor of 032C, on the fashion industry under the corona scene. Brands are perishing now because they have a pre-existing condition. The whole COVID situation is really just a question of transparency and visibility. The luxury industry is suffering because the structure of production is not visible. The framework is not solid. Visibility helps weather crisis. While I'm in no means a fashion expert, I believe my proposal of centralizing the whole industry within a tower in a city context will provide what the industry is lacking: visibility and sustainability. Hence, I believe my tower is the future of the fashion industry.